Are we started?
Yep, we started.
Are you going to leave this in?
I don't know.
Well, I should be doing the editing because you've been doing all the editing, but we'll see if I have time.
I've got it down. Actually, it doesn't take me that long because I do the crop silence thing too.
Yeah, that's not always super precise.
It's pretty good, though. I don't hear it.
Okay. Well, dear listener, if you hear it and you think we need to do a better job editing, please give us an email at youraleatoricreality@gmail.com.
Welcome to Your Aleatoric Reality, the podcast where sometimes future Damon has to punch in and say that because we forgot to fucking say it while we were recording this. So anyway, back to the podcast.
I want to start, actually, not by harassing Damon, but by issuing a public apology. Way back in episode, we'll punch this in later, I forget which episode it was, but we were talking about Tom Hanks movies.
Oh, yeah.
And I said how my least favorite movie was Joe versus the Volcano. In fact, having been the only film that I've ever walked out of in the theater. And I also mentioned how this was a bit of a point of contention between me and my good friend Scott from Pennsylvania because he cites it as his favorite movie. Although, much like you did with The Magicians off mic a few minutes ago, he backpedaled his statement to like one of his favorite movies, but he really, really loves that movie. Mm-hmm. And when I was in Pennsylvania, I stayed with him and we were talking about it. And he said, you know, I really think you should give it another chance. So we watched it. And oh boy, howdy, was I wrong. What I learned from watching that movie is that when I was 19, I was an idiot because I had seen Tom Hanks. I watched him on Bosom Buddies. You know, all know already that I'm old, so I'm not like really outing myself as an old guy. But I've watched Tom Hanks on Bosom Buddies on TV. I watched him in Bachelor Party, which I think was his first movie.
Yes.
So I thought of him as this goofy, silly, ridiculous comedian, slapstick comedian, which he was in Bachelor Party. Mm-hmm. And so when I was 19...
Adrian Zemed.
Who's that?
He was the co-star of Bachelor Party.
Okay.
And Grease 2.
Cool. Ever the fountain of extraneous trivia. I am too. I mean, I do that all the time. But you derailed my apology.
Oh,
Where was I?
You were apologizing.
Oh, sorry, Scott. No, because when I was 19, I was expecting this goofball, screwball comedy, and Joe versus the Volcano is what we would best describe as a fable or an allegory, and it's so rich with symbolism and like wisdom and like a look at how sometimes in life you don't take risks because you're afraid, but you only really get great things by taking risks. It's a very Fortuna appropriate movie in that realm because it does talk about the importance to, you know, take a leap into the unknown and take risks to find adventure and love and human fulfillment. So, once again, I'm very sorry, Scott, for ever decrying Joe versus the Volcano as anything less than a spectacular and thoughtful film.
I was just looking because I wonder, you know, you blame it on your being young and stupid or whatever.
Yeah.
But I wonder if you just have a better perspective on Tom Hanks now.
Maybe.
Because you actually said that in your little speech there. Because you said, oh, I was expecting this and expecting that. And the other thing, I was just going to look. I wanted to see, what did he have up until Joe versus Volcano? Oh, we forgot about Splash.
Oh, right. Splash, which was largely played for laughs.
But it came before Bachelor Party.
Right. So it was not my perspective. It was that I was just dumb.
The Money Pit was
Well,
garbage.
I'll tell you one of the things that really turned me off when I first saw it was the first character Meg Ryan plays. And spoiler alert, Meg Ryan plays more than one character in the film, which is a whole thing. And I don't want to go into too much detail about it. But the first character she plays is really ditzy and simple and like a caricature of like ditzy secretary. And I knew Meg Ryan to be a very talented actress. So when I saw her doing this like almost clownish character, I was like, what are they doing? Like, what do they think I'm just supposed to like accept this as a real person? But when you look at an analysis, I should post one to the show notes, an analysis of all the symbolism and stuff in Joe versus the Volcano. That character is there for a very specific purpose, but and all three of them. But the first two are meant to be caricatures, so that when you get to the third character and she's genuine, that's the one. That's like the third stage of his journey, finding real human connection and real value in life.
I'm going to have to take a host challenge on this. I'm going to have to watch this movie sometime this week and then give you my perspective.
Your 2 cents.
But actually, I forgot about Nothing in Common, too, which I actually referenced. I just forgot it was Tom Hanks.
I don't think I've seen that.
Him and Jackie Gleason. And Jackie Gleason's his dad, and he has diabetic feet.
No.
Really? It's actually probably his first serious role. A Man with One Armed Shoe was kind of not, but I mean, like Volunteers, The Money Pit, Dragnet. Although I have to say, Dragnet. I love Dragnet.
Yeah.
But it's really just the Satan part.
Pagan. Our organization is called Pagan, and it stands for People Against Goodness and Normalcy.
Pills?
Yeah. Really good.
I mean, when he had Philadelphia, which is 3 years after, that was when he really
took on the serious dramatic actor persona.
Because that was followed the next year by Forrest Gump and Apollo 13.
Forrest Gump remains my favorite Tom Hanks movie, although I could say that Joe versus the Volcano is now probably in my top 3.
Have you seen That Thing You Do?
No.
That's my favorite.
Never going to watch it.
I love that movie.
I hate that movie.
If I have to watch Joe versus the Volcano, you have to watch That Thing You Do.
That Thing You Do. No, I was trying to set it up so that when I finally do watch That Thing You Do, I'll have to apologize to you like I did to Scott.
Oh, so you're just looking to apologize?
Right. That's what I do. I love to apologize. You know what I really love to do? I love to model on the internet when I have an argument with somebody, but they have a point, and I'll say, "Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, you have a really good point," because I like to model that behavior. Because normally on the internet, everybody just doubles down on everything they say, even if they know they're wrong.
Lots of talking, not much listening, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll apologize. I'll back down, if for no other reason than to model good behavior. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Please tell a friend, and tell a friend good things, because it's fun to lie.
Where do you stand on the Da Vinci Code?
I liked the book quite a bit. And they did repair one of the plot holes when they made the movie. Oh. Because there's so this guy, what the heck's the guy's name?
Fake Indiana Jones.
Fake Indiana Jones is a symbologist.
Robert Langdon.
Speaks 12 languages. And he encounters a snippet of text that is simply written backwards. And he's like, is this ancient Etruscan? Is this some weird dialect of Arabic? I can't tell what this is. In the book. That's in the book. In the movie, they get that little slip of paper. Tom Hanks looks at it and he instantly says, "We need a mirror."
He just can't read it backwards?
Well, it's in flowery script.
Oh, gotcha.
So it is difficult to read backwards, but it is very apparent that it is backwards writing when you see it.
That's hilarious.
So that was something Dan Brown must have got a lot of heat for that moment in the book. And when he wrote the screenplay, he's just like, you know what, I'm just going to gloss over that part.
Oh, God, he was in Cloud Atlas.
Haven't seen.
Yeah,
Are we here to talk about Tom Hanks, or are we here to talk about randomness?
I mean, it's pretty random.
We've talked about Tom Hanks previously on this show. I don't know how random it is.
Well, who else has put out like at least one movie every year since like 1983?
Frank Zappa accepts substitute album for movie.
Even postmortem?
Yeah. They keep there's way more unreleased Frank Zappa than there is released Frank Zappa. You can take that to the bank. That's what UMG is trying to do.
Yeah, but a lot of it is not new material.
There's a lot of stuff that's just stuff he wrote and recorded and never put out.
Oh, like his Synclavier.
Probably never played live.
And yeah, he did.
There's teams of archivists going through it, but the family sold it to Universal. So they're going, like, they want to monetize it, so they're going through it and releasing stuff. Anywho, it's time to roll for a segment. So let's get a 7-sided die, shall we? Do you have one?
A 7-sided?
Do you have a 7?
Yes, I do.
Excellent. I knew I could count on you. Do you want to roll it?
Sure.
There's an edge pointing upwards. There's an edge pointing upwards. Its two faces are both on an angle. It's the edge that is facing up.
It's a 6.
Were you wasted when you designed that die?
No.
I mean, it has 7 sides, so when one flat side is on the table, there's a roof on top.
Right. Yeah. Guess my 9's like that too.
I mean, you could just say that it's like the one that's down when you roll, like a 4-sided die. The one that's on the table is we rolled a Monday.
On a Monday.
Yeah, it's a 2, which is a game. We're going to play a game.
Oh, no.
Yes.
I want to play a game.
Name that movie.
Is that Bane?
No.
I don't know.
Listener, email us at youralietoricreality@gmail.com if you got that reference, and I'll send you a prize if you give me your mailing address. I will.
I mean, I know. Do you want to play a game?
I know that too. That's why Randall Schwartz was imprisoned for trying to make sure everybody had secure passwords at IBM. That's a whole other tangent I'm not going to go down right now, but you can look it up.
All right.
There's draconian anti-hacking legislation that was passed in direct response to that movie because the public was scared about computers starting a nuclear war, and legislators didn't know anything about tech, so they're just like, let's make everything illegal.
Some things never change.
Yeah. Okay. So we got the yacht game, greed, Ascendo, gin rummy, or are you? Well, let's say who's the robot? Because we're not. I don't know if we're allowed to play a Looney Labs game.
Do you have it with you?
For publication. I don't, and I want to obfuscate the mechanism from the listeners because I want them to buy the game. And that's only if we roll it. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You've got a 5-sider, I know. I still have to test that one you gave me. Is this the latest model?
No.
Is this one version ago? 5. Who's the robot? Which is I'm just going to say, Andy Looney, if you hear about this and you want to start some shit with me, we can start some shit. I met you at PenguinCon one year. I played Are You the Traitor before it was published when it was still called Evil Magic Ring. And I am a fan of yours and I respect you. And whatever you want me to do to promote your game, I'm happy to do. So here we're going to go and play. I'm going to obfuscate the methodology because I want you to buy the game. But we're going to determine who's a robot and who's a human between the two of us.
Right.
So one of us will be a human, one of us will be a robot.
Can't both be robots?
Well, no, actually, there's a couple possibilities. We could both be humans, or one of us could be a robot.
Okay.
So the point of the game is we just talk to each other to try to find out if we can trust each other. And if you're a human and you trust the other player, you shake hands. If you are a robot, you do not let go of that handshake, and that indicates to the human player that they've made a terrible mistake. However, if you're a human and you think the other player is a robot, you can shoot them.
Okay.
If you shoot a human, everybody loses. If you shoot the robot, you win. So humans can shoot, they can both shake hands, and a robot can't stop shaking hands.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So...
How do we pick?
Yeah, do you have a deck of cards?
Yeah.
Normally you would use the licensed Andy Looney cards, but I didn't bring them with me, so we're going to do kind of a homemade version.
Robot.
Okay. So we're going to determine, we're probably going to have to cut out some of the where I over-explained what can happen. I don't want people to be able to just figure out how to do the game and play it at home.
Well, I think our listeners are cool enough that if they like the concept, they'll just spend the $1.
It's $2.
Yeah, it's $2,
Yeah.
dude. Like,
regardless of whether you like this episode, please go to, is it LooneyLabs.com? It's LooneyLabs.com. Go to Looney Labs and buy Are You the Robot for $2.
what's the shipping on it?
And while you're there, buy some other games because Andy Looney is a genius.
Andy
Looney is a certified genius. He's actually a genius. He used to work for NASA, and his games are really fun.
And I've yet to play Flux with somebody, like introduce somebody to Flux that didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
I mean, that game is, if you don't like Flux, there's something
buy
wrong
yourself a
with
version
you.
of Flux if you've never played it.
I mean, you might not want it all the time, but it's definitely a fun game.
All right. And maybe we'll have Andy on the show sometime. That would be fun. Mr.
You know what?
Looney,
I forgot to tell you. He's
is
here.
Is it Mr. Looney or Dr. Looney? I don't know. We'll have to find out.
It's definitely not Mr. T.
Okay, look at your roll, and then we discuss who might be a robot, because I've heard that there are murderous, assassinating robots about, and they look exactly like humans, so you could be one.
Okay.
I mean, I could technically be one too, so we got to try to figure this out.
Okay.
So are you a robot?
Yes.
I mean, I may have forgot to mention that robots are permitted and probably actually required strategically to lie.
Right. But humans can't lie, or they
Humans can lie too, I guess.
Okay.
Sure.
So yeah,
But it would
absolutely
be
a robot.
bang
Okay, we
or
both
zap.
lose.
I shot you. I shot a human. We both lose. Why did you say you were a robot?
I don't know. It seemed
What did
fun.
you think was going to happen? All right.
I thought you might. So now I know if there's ever a problem, you're not in charge. That was a pretty hasty.
You said you were a robot.
Yeah, but
It's my job to eliminate the murderous, assassinating robots.
well, first of all,
from
you
our
didn't
town.
mention it was your job. You just mentioned they exist.
No, you're supposed to. If you're a human and the other player's a robot, you're supposed to shoot them. And if you're the robot, you're supposed to convince the human to trust you and shake your hand.
Okay.
So, and if you're both humans, you have to shake hands because that's the only way the game would end. Or unless you want to shoot the other person. But if you think the other person's a human,
But if there's no rules about
shake
lying, it's kind of
you're supposed to lie.
okay.
I mean, you're not supposed to lie and say you're the robot, but if you're the robot, you're definitely supposed to lie and say you're a human.
Okay.
So are you?
Am I what?
Human.
Maybe.
I may be human too.
I identify as human.
What I'm struggling with philosophically is if I were replaced by a murderous, assassinating robot, how would I know? Because I would be programmed to think that I was a human, right?
I think you'd figure it out.
Would you?
It depends on how good the program is.
I mean, I guess.
What's the end game for the robots?
The robots want to eliminate all humans.
Okay. So do their subroutines include not knowing they're a robot?
Well, that's not made clear in the rules of the game.
Right. So do they
Come on, Andy Looney, let us know the details of the android's programming so we know how to portray them if we ever become one.
See, I think we need let's expound on this.
Okay.
All right. There are two types of robots. There are the robots that know they're robots.
Uh-huh.
And there are robots that believe they're human.
So ChatGPT would be an example of a robot that knows it's a robot. Would you call it a robot, or does a robot have to have physical apparatus?
I think for the sake of sci-fi, it's more fun to film things. So it would,
Right.
yeah. I mean, I think we're talking about an android, a replicant, something that would be confused for a human. I mean, unless this whole game takes place in chat, I don't think it's very effective to
Right.
ask a robot if it's a robot if it doesn't have a physical form.
Okay.
So there's two robots. One believes it's a human, doesn't actually know it's a robot.
Right.
And the other robot knows it's a robot.
Right. So if you were the first type of robot you espoused, by your description, it would be impossible for that robot to know that it was a robot.
I mean, it could have suspicions. Depends on
I mean, some of us may have suspicions that we've been replaced
Right.
by robots. Robert Anton Wilson, one of my favorite authors, one time there was an internet rumor that he had been replaced by a CIA robot. And to which he said, well, I can tell you that I'm not a CIA robot, but I can also tell you that if I were a CIA robot, that's exactly what I would say.
Right.
So neither he nor his fans had any idea whether he was actually still himself or replaced.
Didn't
by
he
a
also
CIA
get
robot.
accused of essentially like group funding his books? Like multiple authors were working on his books as him?
I hadn't heard that if it were a scandal regarding
remember. I
Bob
think it was-
Wilson, but
It's probably something he made up based on the content of his books.
could be. He probably did put out some misinformation here and there as to be funny when he was high. Anyhow, so we're no closer to determining whether we can trust each other or not.
Right.
So you said maybe you're a human, which is certainly a true answer.
Yeah. I mean, as far as I'm aware,
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, I'm a human.
let's go find a robot.
Let's go find a robot. Let's shake on it. I am the robot. I didn't let go of his hand,
Oh.
and I have won the game by being a robot.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
Oh.
there you go. That's how that game works. And so this is an iteration in Andy Looney's theme and variations on Werewolf. Anyhow, Andy Looney playing jazz with Are You the Werewolf? Mm-hmm. I don't know the origins of that game. Do you?
I think it's like it was in the Bible. I think
Probably.
it was called "Are You a Unicorn?"
Some people call it Mafia. The Wikipedia entry starts with Mafia. Mafia, also known as Werewolf, is a Russian social deduction game created by Dmitry Davidoff in 1986.
Really?
So not quite as old as I thought it would be.
I thought it was like
And created by one specific person that is known. It's interesting.
he stole it.
So, yeah, I don't know.
He's a Russian in this Cold War.
You never know. But he probably has read Hamlet in the original Klingon. So Mafia or Werewolf is the game where you have a number of people. It works best in a large group. And depending on how many people you have, there might be one or more, like 2 or 3 Mafia members, and the rest are just ordinary citizens. In the Werewolf version, of course, they're werewolves. The rest are townspeople. And
it's significantly less racist.
could be. Is Mafia a racist term? I mean, I didn't
Some
say
people say
Italian Mafia.
It's implied.
Is it? All right. Well, if there's any Mafia members out there listening, please don't kill us. Feel free to email us and correct us if we're mistaken about your culture. We don't judge. Anyhow, so you talk amongst yourselves and you try to figure out who's the werewolf. You take turns lynching people in the crowd, and if the townspeople kill all the werewolves, they win. But if you get down to the point where there's more werewolves or an equal number of werewolves to humans, it's assumed that they can just openly overpower them, and then the werewolves win. The problem with that game is that it requires a game master to run the day and the night phases.
And a lot of people.
It does require, well, you could play it with 6 or 7 people.
8.
Yeah.
I think it recommends 8.
But one of them has to be the game master who knows who the werewolves are, directs, people to close their eyes at the right time, and there's a whole process to it. So Andy Looney wanted to come up with a version of Werewolf that didn't have day and night phases. It's just one phase, you get your roll, everybody talks it out, and you try to figure out if you're the bad side, you try to, figure out who has the magic artifact that you need to steal, and if you're the good players, you want to figure out which wizard is the good wizard. It's really a clever game, and it has no phases.
So the werewolves are unaware of who the other werewolves are in this version.
Well, once again, I don't want to go too in detail in the mechanics because this is a game that you should go buy. But essentially, there's a party of adventurers. One of them is the one carrying the magical artifact. Everybody in the party knows who has the artifact. And then there are 2 wizards. One is good and one is evil. And the evil wizard magics himself to look exactly like the good wizard. So all the party knows is these are 2 wizards. We don't know which one's which. The evil wizard is trying to get the magic item, but the person who has it is trying to give it to the good wizard. So they're all trying to figure out who each other are so that they can either save or destroy the world, basically, with the evil magic tool.
Okay. Where's the werewolf?
There isn't a werewolf.
Oh.
He took the social deduction part.
I see. So what's it called
changed
then?
the theme. It's called Are You the Traitor?
Ah.
Did I not say that at first?
Nope.
Because there's one person in the party who is secretly working for the evil wizard.
Ah.
So that person, if you're skilled, if you're unskilled, it's very easy to get outed as the traitor right away. But if you're skilled, you try to figure out who's the evil wizard and subtly indicate to them which one of the party is carrying the magical artifact.
And the one who's holding it has to hold it until they reveal it to the...
Yes, there's only one person. Just like in Lord of the Rings,
yes,
there's only one person that can hold the ring at a time. In Are You the Traitor, only one person has the object. You can't pass it around.
Gotcha.
One person is the possessor of the thing. And so that was a big step, a huge innovation, I would say, in that type of game, which Among Us is now, a very well-known version of Werewolf. Well, again, with a different theme because you're in space.
Right.
So my take on Are You the Robot, or Are You a Robot? I think it's A. Are You a Robot? Is that he was further tinkering with this idea. Well, I've already gotten it down to 5 players and no phases. could we do a 2-player version of this game?
Right.
And this was his solution to that very interesting prompt. How could we have some type of version of Werewolf that is only 2 players? And in the game that Andy Looney sells, you can also play with 3 players, but it was originally designed to be a 2-player game version of Werewolf. Or he didn't explicitly say that, but it's fairly clear to me that that's where he was going.
It'd be really neat to come up with a 1-player version of that.
You already made it up. Am I the robot? There's 1 player, and either they're a robot who knows they're a robot, or they're a robot who thinks they're a human, or they're a human, and they deal a card. They don't even look at it, and they just talk to themselves and try to figure it out. And then they look at the card, and if they're right, they win.
Working title: Schizophrenia.
Yeah, you should publish that right away.
Yep.
I think that'll be a big seller. Okay, well, we've played our game. I think we should call it an episode. What do you think?
Sure.
We've got to issue a listener challenge, and I feel kind of lame issuing another Tom Hanks related challenge. But that's all I got, unless you got something else.
No, not really.
All right, then I want y'all out there to get a 6-sided die and roll it. And if you roll a 1, you're watching the money pit.
Oh.
If you roll, it's a 1. There's got to be a loser on the list. You watch the money pit. And if you hated it, well, if you think, you know what, this movie could have been a little bit better, you could go back and watch the original with, I think, was it Cary Grant or Jimmy Stewart? It was an old black and white movie that it's based on. Mr. Blandings builds his dream house.
Oh, no, I didn't know
So,
that.
but watch the money pit first if you roll a 1, and then if you want to, delve into the history of it because you liked it that much, you can watch Mr. Blandings builds his dream house.
For no apparent reason that popped into my head, I'm very glad that no one's remade Arsenic and Old Lace.
Because Boris Karloff is dead.
Well, I saw it on Broadway with Abe Vigoda.
Oh, he would be great at that. Funnily enough, synchronicity, he's also in Joe versus the Volcano.
Oh, yeah.
He's the leader of the tribe on the volcano island.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But no, he was actually great in it. And Maureen Stapleton was one of the old ladies.
Nice. That was Edith from All in the Family. If you roll a 2, you're watching Nothing in Common.
It's a good movie.
If you roll a 3, you're watching Splash. If you roll a 4, you're watching Joe versus the Volcano. If you roll a 5, you're watching Dragnet. And if you roll a 6, or you're me,
Can I pick the last one?
you are watching That Thing You Do.
Oh, okay.
We already said 6.
Oh.
Do you want to add one?
Yeah.
What would you want to add?
Mazes and Monsters.
Okay. If you want to do the expert version, get yourself a 7-sided die. Yes, they do exist. And roll 1 through 7. I already gave you the 1 through 6, and then 7 would be Mazes and Monsters. And please email us with your love or hate about this challenge.
Have you seen Mazes and Monsters?
I haven't. Well, I might have when I was a teenager. But
It's so wonderfully dumb.
way to sell it.
No, it's
Well, you did
satanic.
say wonderfully dumb.
It's Satanic Panic, which is always delightful.
Yeah, D&D will make your children
Or heavy metal will make your children or
do all kinds of awful things.
But it's also like I watched part of it recently, like within the last couple of years, and Tom Hanks is actually pretty good in it. Mm-hmm. But everybody else is terrible. I mean, it's made for TV. It's
That's kind of like when you go back and watch Clerks, and you realize that Jason Lee's a really good actor, but no one else in that movie is.
especially Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
Well, not Clerks. He wasn't in, but I was thinking because Jason Lee wasn't in Clerks either. They were both in Mallrats. They were both.
Oh, Jason Lee was in Clerks too, though.
Correct.
Yeah.
Chasing Amy.
Right.
Yeah, but Jason Lee was not in Clerks, the first one.
That's why he was the best actor in it. Because he's like, I'm so good of an actor, I'm not even there.
the only good actor in the first Clerks movie is Randall.
He's not a good actor at all.
Oh, I think he's believable at least. Dante is not.
Actually, maybe I'm thinking of Dante.
Dante's the one working. He's the clerk.
Oh, I was thinking of Dante. Yeah, who's Randall?
He's the one who works at the video store.
Oh, yeah. I think actually, honestly,
It's the Brian Johnson character.
Okay, Jason Mewes, Jay, I think he's a really good actor. He's had a lot of problems,
He's just an idiot, though. I mean, like he is that person.
Well, I mean,
or he was that person. I'm sure he can't. Yeah.
I've always loved his performances. I think he's great.
Ironically, well, I think probably people know this, but the Kevin Smith was not. I don't think he'd ever smoked weed at that point.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't until way later when him and Jay kind of switched.
Well, Jay has probably been on and off the roller coaster since then, and he's had like legal troubles, and he's had like rehab, and
he was in the opioids. He was in the weeds on the opioids.
Yeah,
but I mean, all that's very public. It's all he's been making a lot of money off of it. Actually, it's like the basis of like 10 of their podcasts as his rehab stints and all that. So,
well, I hope he's doing well now. I wish him the best.
Weed saved Kevin Smith's life.
Tell us how.
The doctor told him that the reason he survived his heart attack was because he was so fucking high. Then he didn't freak out.
Wild.
So he never panicked, which I think is... I half believe it. But also it's pretty funny.
Yeah. All right, well, that's about it. Thanks for listening. Please do give us a good review and tell other people to listen to the show. If you like the show, tell your friends. If you don't like the show, tell your enemies. But please do help us grow. And I will end with a random quote. Opera is when a guy gets stabbed in the back and instead of bleeding, he sings.
All right.
Attributed to Ed Gardner.
Who's Ed Gardner?
No idea. Someone who said that thing I just said.
Gotcha.